Listen, I need you to understand something before we start. I am not the kind of person who gets impressed easily. I have seen fighters from 17 different systems. I have watched warriors who could bend steel with their minds. I have witnessed creatures that could phase through solid matter and tear you apart from the inside out. So when I tell you what happened at the Grand Proving, you need to believe me when I say I did not expect any of this. My name is Vector. I am a betting coordinator for the proving grounds on Station Helix 9, which, if you do not know, is the single most prestigious combat arena in this entire sector of the galaxy. We host the Grand Proving every cycle, and beings from hundreds of worlds come to test themselves, to win glory, to claim the prize money that could buy you a small moon, or, in most cases, to die spectacularly. The registration hall was packed that morning, absolutely packed. You had your usual crowd, Trovar berserkers, 7 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating that could stop plasma rounds, Sylph assassins with their forearms and poison glands, a couple of Drexian hive minds, which always creeped me out because you never knew if you were talking to one consciousness or 500. The air smelled like a mixture of sweat, ozone, and that particular scent of fear that every species apparently shares. I was running the registration desk with my partner, Yelik, who is possibly the most cynical being I have ever met. And I work in the betting industry, so that is saying something. For another cycle, another batch of corpses, Yelik muttered, his 3 eyes scanning the crowd. He was clicking his mandibles together in that annoying way he does when he is bored. You are a ray of sunshine, I said, processing a particularly nasty-looking Threxian through the system. The creature had spikes growing out of its shoulders and smelled like rotten fruit. Contestant 247. You are in bracket 8. Try not to kill anyone before the match starts. The Threxian growled at me, which I took as acknowledgement, and stomped away. That is when he walked in. Now, I had seen humans before. Not many, mind you. They are a relatively new species to the galactic community. Only made contact about 40 cycles ago. Most of them stick to their own little corner of space, doing whatever it is humans do, trading, exploring, occasionally picking fights with pirates. The usual. But this one was different. He was not particularly large, maybe 6 feet tall, which is pretty average for a human but tiny compared to most of the fighters here. He had dark hair, cut short, and these strange brown eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. He wore simple clothes. A black jacket, dark pants, boots that had seen better days. No armor, no weapons visible, no entourage of trainers or supporters. He walked up to my desk with this casual confidence that immediately set off alarm bells in my head. Registration for the Grand Proving? He asked. His voice was calm, almost friendly. He spoke perfect galactic common, barely any accent. I blinked at him. You want to register? That is why I am standing at the registration desk, he said, and I swear there was a hint of amusement in his tone. Yelik leaned over, his mandibles clicking faster. Human, do you have any idea what the Grand Proving is? A tournament, the human replied simply. Combat. Last one standing wins. Prize is 50 million credits. Did I miss anything? The part where you die, I said flatly. The mortality rate is 73%. Those are not bad odds. He smiled, actually smiled. I have faced worse. I exchanged a glance with Yelik. This human was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Possibly both. Look, I said, trying to be somewhat helpful despite my better judgment. I have to inform you that humans have never competed in the Grand Proving before. You have no recorded combat statistics in our database. No ranking, no verified kills. You are going to be thrown in with the absolute bottom-tier fighters, and even those will tear you apart. Then you should probably take my registration fee before I die and cannot pay you, he said, placing a credit chip on the counter. I stared at the chip, then at him, then at Yelik, who was making a gesture with his upper arms that roughly translated to, "This idiot is going to get splattered across the arena floor." "What is your name?" I asked, pulling up the registration form. "Jack," he said. "Jack Corvanos." I typed it in. The system immediately flagged him as a first-time competitor, unranked, species classification, human, threat level minimal. Betting odds were automatically calculated at 500 to 1 against his survival past the first round. "Jack Corvanos," I said slowly. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Never been more sure of anything in my life. I processed his registration. The system accepted it with a cheerful little beep that felt deeply inappropriate given the circumstances. "You are contestant 412, I told him. "Your first match is tomorrow at mid-cycle. Bracket 15. You will be fighting in the preliminary rounds. Show up at the arena entrance 2 hours early for the safety briefing, not that it will help you." "Any questions?" "Just one," Jack said. "Is there a betting window nearby?" "Down the hall, third door on the left," Yelich said. "Why, you want to bet on yourself?" "Something like that." Jack picked up his registration chip and headed toward the betting hall. I watched him go, shaking my head. "He is going to die so fast." 5 credits says he does not even make it to the arena, Yelich said. "You are on." We went back to processing the other contestants. But I kept thinking about that human, about the way he smiled, about the absolute certainty in his voice. It bothered me, and I could not figure out why. The next day, the arena was filled to capacity. 20,000 beings from across the sector, all crammed into the stands, screaming and cheering and placing bets. The preliminary rounds are always popular because that is where you get the most spectacular deaths. The lower-ranked fighters are desperate, inexperienced, brutal. They make mistakes. Those mistakes are usually fatal. I was up in the betting coordinator's booth, watching the matches on the holo displays while managing the odds in real time. Yelich was beside me, munching on some kind of fried insect that smelled terrible. "Bracket 15 is up next," he said through a mouthful of bug. "Your human is fighting a Corvan heavy." I pulled up the match details. Jack Corvanos versus Thrake the Bone Crusher. Oh, this was going to be ugly. Thrake was a Corvan, which meant he was 8.5 feet of pure muscle, covered in thick gray skin that could deflect most bladed weapons. He had won 17 matches in previous tournaments. He fought with a spiked club that weighed about as much as 3 humans. The betting odds had him at 97% to win. Jack had 3%, and that was generous. The arena floor cleared. 2 gates opened on opposite sides. Thrake stomped out from the east gate, raising his club above his head. The crowd roared. He was a known fighter, a crowd favorite. Blood and broken bones, every single time. Then the west gate opened. Jack walked out. No armor, no visible weapons. Just him, wearing the same black jacket from yesterday, hands in his pockets like he was taking a casual stroll through a park. The crowd went silent for a moment, confused. Then they started laughing, actually laughing. A human, a tiny, unarmed human, walking into the arena like he was going to fight one of the most dangerous preliminary fighters in the tournament. "This is going to be the shortest match in history," Yelich said, leaning forward. I did not respond. I was watching Jack's face on the holo display. He was not smiling anymore. His expression was calm, focused, almost meditative. His eyes never left Thrake. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Fighters ready. This match will conclude when one combatant is dead, unconscious, or yields. Begin." Thrake charged. I mean, he really charged. The ground shook. His club came up, ready to bring down enough force to turn Jack into paste. Jack waited. He waited until Thrake was maybe 3 feet away, the club already descending in a killing arc. Then he moved. I have watched thousands of fights. I have seen speed, agility, precision. But I have never, ever seen anyone move like that. Jack stepped to the side. Not a desperate scramble. Not a panicked dive. A simple, economical step. The club smashed into the ground where he had been standing, sending up a spray of dust and gravel. Before Thrake could recover, before he could even begin to lift the weapon again, Jack was inside his guard. What happened next took maybe 2 seconds, but I have replayed it in my mind 1,000 times. Jack's hand shot out, fingers rigid, and struck Thrake in the throat. Not hard enough to kill, but enough to make the Corvan gag, his eyes going wide. In the same motion, Jack grabbed Thrake's weapon arm, used the giant's own momentum against him, and threw him. Threw him, a human. Threw a Corvan heavy. Thrake crashed to the ground hard enough to crack the stone floor. The crowd went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop in that arena. Thrake tried to get up. Jack put a knee on his chest, pressed down, and looked the Corvan straight in the eyes. "Yield," Jack said quietly. But the arena microphones picked it up. That one word echoed through the entire stadium. Thrake, a veteran fighter with 17 wins, looked up at this human, this creature that weighed maybe a fifth of what he did. And I saw something in his eyes I had never seen in a Corvan before. Fear. "I yield." Thrake shouted. "I yield." Jack stood up, stepped back, and walked toward the exit gate without even looking at the crowd. The arena exploded. Screaming, cheering, confusion, disbelief. The betting computers were going haywire as thousands of beings tried to process what had just happened. Yellock turned to me, his 3 eyes wide as saucers. "What in the 7 hells was that?" "I have no idea," I whispered. I pulled up Jack's file again. Minimal threat level. The system had been so wrong it was almost funny. Almost. Almost? I made a note to adjust his odds for the next match. Then I made another note to put some of my own credits on him. Because if he could do that to Thrake, I wanted to see what he would do to the next opponent. The second round was 2 days later. By then, word had spread. The human who took down Thrake the Bone Crusher without breaking a sweat. The arena was packed, even fuller than before, if that was possible. Beings were standing in the aisles. Scalpers were selling tickets for triple the normal price. Jack's odds had improved to 30-1. Still not great, but better. His opponent this time was a sylph named Kasara. 4 arms, each tipped with razor-sharp claws, poison glands in her wrists. She moved like water, fast and fluid. She had killed 6 opponents in her last tournament run. I watched from the booth as they faced each other on the arena floor. Kasara was not going to make the same mistake Thrake did. She did not charge. She circled, testing, her 4 arms spread wide, looking for an opening. Jack turned slowly, keeping her in front of him. He still was not carrying any weapons, still wearing that same jacket. "She is going to poison him," Yellock muttered. "One scratch, and he is done." Sarah struck. All 4 arms at once, a blur of claws and death. Jack, I still do not know how to describe what he did. He seemed to flow between her attacks. Her claws passed within millimeters of his skin, but never touched. He was not just dodging. He was reading her movements, anticipating them, staying always 1 step ahead. Then he grabbed one of her wrists. Kasara's eyes went wide. She tried to pull back, to inject her poison, to use her other 3 arms to tear him apart. Jack twisted. There was a sickening crack. Kasara screamed. Her arm hung at an unnatural angle. Before she could recover, Jack swept her legs, took her to the ground, and had her in some kind of hold I had never seen before. Her remaining 3 arms flailed uselessly. She could not move, could not escape, could not breathe properly. "Yield," Jack said. Same quiet voice, same calm tone. "I yield." Kasara gasped. Jack released her and walked away. The crowd went insane. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screens. He is not just good. He is trained. Really, really trained. In what? Yellock demanded. I have never seen fighting techniques like that. Have you? I had not, but I was starting to get an idea. I pulled up Earth's file in the galactic database, started reading through their history. What I found made my blood run cold. Humans have been fighting each other for their entire recorded history. Thousands of years of warfare, hundreds of different combat styles. They have refined violence into an art form. They have techniques for every situation, every opponent, every weapon or lack thereof. And they had recently started sharing this knowledge with anyone who wanted to learn. Jack was not just some random human who wandered into the tournament. He was a martial artist, possibly a soldier, definitely someone who had spent years, maybe decades, perfecting the art of combat. The tournament continued. Jack won his third match, then his fourth, then his fifth. Each time, it was the same pattern. He would study his opponent, find their weakness, exploit it with brutal efficiency, and force them to yield. He never killed anyone, never seemed to even get angry. He fought like it was just a job, something he was very good at and slightly bored by. By the sixth round, his odds were down to 3-1. The betting pools were in chaos. Nobody knew what to make of him. I was making a fortune. But more than that, I was fascinated. I started watching recordings of his matches, studying them. The way he moved, the precision of his strikes, the absolute control he had over every single fight. And then came the quarterfinals. His opponent was Draxus, a former champion, Rexian warlord who had won the Grand Proving twice before. He stood 9 feet tall, had 4 eyes that could see in multiple spectrums, and fought with twin plasma blades that could cut through almost anything. The betting odds were even, 50-50. Nobody had any idea who would win. I was in the booth early, watching as the arena filled up. This was the most anticipated match of the tournament. The undefeated human versus the 2-time champion. The gates opened. Draxus strode out, his plasma blades ignited, bathing the arena floor in blue light. The crowd chanted his name. Then Jack walked out. Still no armor, still no weapons. But this time he was not wearing his jacket, just a simple black shirt. And for the first time I could see his arms clearly. They were covered in scars. Old ones, new ones, burns, cuts, marks I could not identify. This human had been fighting for a very long time. The two fighters faced each other. Draxus activated all 4 of his eyes, scanning Jack from multiple angles simultaneously. "You have done well, human," Draxus said, his voice amplified across the arena. "But this ends now. I will give you a warrior's death." Jack tilted his head slightly. "You can try." The crowd loved it. The tension was incredible. "Begin," the announcer shouted. Draxus did not charge. He advanced carefully, his blades weaving complex patterns in the air. He was a master swordsman. Every movement was calculated, professional, deadly. But Jack backed up slowly, watching the blades. They circled each other. The entire arena held its breath. Then Draxus struck. A lightning-fast combination, high and low, designed to overwhelm. The plasma blades sang through the air. Jack moved. He was faster than Draxus expected, faster than anyone expected. He got inside the reach of the blades, close enough that Draxus could not bring them to bear effectively. What followed was the most intense 15 seconds of combat I have ever witnessed. Jack struck at pressure points, joints, nerve clusters. Draxus tried to create space to get his blades into play, but Jack stayed close, denying him the distance. Every time Draxus tried to step back, Jack followed. Every time a blade came close, Jack redirected it, used his hands to slap it away from vital areas, sacrificing minor burns for major advantage. And then Jack did something that made the entire arena gasp. He caught one of Draxus's wrists, twisted, and forced the Vrexian to drop his right blade. Before it hit the ground, Jack snatched it out of the air, reversed his grip, and in one smooth motion, put the plasma blade against Draxus's throat. They stood there, frozen. Jack holding Draxus's own weapon to his neck. The 2-time champion completely at the human's mercy. "Yield," Jack said softly. Draxus's 4 eyes all focused on Jack's face. I could see the calculations running through his mind. Could he escape? Could he fight back with his remaining blade? Could he accept defeat from this small human? I yield, Draxus said finally. You have bested me, Jack Corvanos. You fight with honor. Jack deactivated the plasma blade and handed it back to him, hilt first. You fought well. They both walked off the arena floor to thunderous applause. I sat in the booth, absolutely stunned. Yellick was making incoherent noises beside me. Jack had just defeated a 2-time champion, a human, from a species nobody had ever taken seriously in combat sports. The odds for the semi-finals were posted immediately. Jack was the favorite now, 2-1 to win the entire tournament. I had put half my life savings on him at 30-1 before his second match. I was going to be rich if he won. But more than that, I was watching history being made. This was not just about one human winning a tournament. This was about the entire galaxy realizing that humans, these strange creatures from Earth, were far more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. The semi-final was tomorrow. I could barely sleep. The night before the semi-finals, I did something I had never done in my 15 cycles working at the proving grounds. I went to visit one of the fighters. I found Jack in the lower-level training facilities. Most fighters were surrounded by coaches, medics, handlers. Jack was alone, going through a series of movements that looked almost like a dance. Slow, controlled, precise. His eyes were closed. His breathing was even. Meditation? I asked from the doorway. Jack opened his eyes and turned to face me. He did not seem surprised to see me. Something like that. Can I help you, Vector? You remember my name. I remember everything, he said simply. He picked up a towel and wiped the sweat from his face. You are the betting coordinator who tried to warn me about the mortality rate. You are welcome for that, by the way, I said, stepping into the room. Listen, I have been doing this job for a long time. I have seen thousands of fighters, but I have never seen anything like you. So I need to ask, what are you really? Some kind of special forces? Assassin? Genetic experiment? Jack laughed. Actually laughed. It was a warm sound, genuine. Nothing that exciting. I am just someone who has been training since I was 6 years old. Training in what? Exactly. Everything. He sat down on a bench, gestured for me to join him. I did. On Earth, we have hundreds of fighting styles. Thousands, if you count regional variations. Some are ancient, passed down for millennia. Some are modern, developed for specific purposes. I studied 12 of them. Spent 20 years mastering the fundamentals, then another 10 learning how to combine them. Why? I asked. Why dedicate your entire life to combat? Jack was quiet for a moment. His eyes had a distant look, because someone needed to. Because when humanity joined the galactic community, we realized we were small, weak, new. Everyone looked at us like we were children playing at being adults. I wanted to change that perception. I wanted to show that humans could stand with anyone. By winning a tournament? By proving that size does not matter, that technology does not matter, that what matters is skill, dedication, and the willingness to push yourself beyond what anyone thinks is possible. He looked at me directly. Tomorrow I fight someone who has won 43 consecutive matches, a Tekaran named Valdris. He is twice my size, 3 times my strength, and has reflexes faster than anything I have ever faced. The odds say I should lose, but you do not think you will. I know I will not, Jack said calmly, because I have something he does not have. I have spent my entire life preparing for moments like this. Every technique I know, every strategy, every counter move, it all comes from thousands of years of human combat experience. We might be new to the galaxy, but we have been fighting since we climbed down from the trees. It is in our blood. I felt a chill run down my spine, not from fear, from understanding. Humans were not just another species. We were predators, natural-born fighters who had turned warfare into science, into art, into philosophy. And Jack was the culmination of all that history, walking onto the arena floor to prove it to the entire galaxy. "The betting pools have you at even odds," I said. "For what it is worth, I have a substantial amount of money riding on you winning." "Then I will try not to disappoint you," Jack said with a slight smile. "One more question," I said, standing to leave. "When you win this tournament, and I am starting to believe you will, what happens next?" Jack stood as well. "I go home. I train the next generation. I teach other humans what I have learned so that we can stand as equals in this galaxy. And maybe, just maybe, I help change the way everyone thinks about my species." "You are already doing that," I told him. The next day, the arena was beyond capacity. They had to set up holoscreens in 3 adjacent stations just to handle the overflow crowd. Beings had come from dozens of systems just to watch this match. The human versus the legend. I was in my booth, but I could barely focus on the betting computers. The energy in the stadium was electric, crackling with anticipation. Yelik was beside me, practically vibrating with excitement. "This is the biggest event we have hosted in 10 cycles. The betting volume alone is going to crash our systems." "Let it crash," I muttered. "I want to watch this." The east gate opened. Valdris emerged, and the crowd roared. He was magnificent in a terrifying way. 10 feet of scaled muscle, bright red skin covered in ceremonial tattoos, 4 arms each ending in claws that could tear through steel. His species, the Tekerens, were legendary warriors. They had fought in the Clone Wars, the Sector Rebellions, every major conflict for the past 3 centuries. Valdris himself had never lost a tournament match. Ever. He raised all 4 arms, and the crowd went absolutely insane. Then the west gate opened, and Jack walked out. The human looked tiny by comparison, but he walked with the same calm confidence I had seen in every match. No hesitation, no fear, just absolute certainty. They met in the center of the arena. Valdris looked down at Jack with what might have been respect in his reptilian eyes. "You have fought well, human," Valdris said, his voice like grinding stones. "But your run ends here. I will make your death quick." "I appreciate the thought," Jack replied. "But I am not planning on dying today." Valdris bared his teeth. It might have been a smile. "We shall see." They returned to their starting positions. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena, but I barely heard the words. All I could focus on was the 2 fighters, the human and the legend, preparing for battle. Begin. Valdris did not charge this time. He had watched Jack's previous matches. He knew better. Instead, he advanced cautiously, all 4 arms positioned defensively, his claws extended, his eyes locked on the human. Jack mirrored his movement, circling, looking for an opening. They were both professionals, both masters of their craft. The arena floor might as well have been a chessboard, each movement calculated, each step deliberate. Then Valdris struck. All 4 arms at once, a coordinated attack from multiple angles designed to overwhelm any defense. The claws tore through the air with enough force to shred armor. Jack dropped low, rolled forward under the attack, came up inside Valdris's guard. His fist shot out, struck the Tekaran in the solar plexus. It should have been a devastating blow. Valdris barely flinched. "Oh no," I thought. Jack had miscalculated. Tekerans have redundant organ systems. What would incapacitate most species just annoyed them. Valdris's lower right arm swung in a backhand that caught Jack across the chest, sent him flying 6 feet. The human hit the ground hard, rolled with the impact, came up bleeding from a cut on his cheek. The crowd was screaming. This was what they had come to see. Real combat. Real danger. Jack touched his cheek, looked at the blood on his fingers. Then he smiled. "That should have been my first warning." Jack charged. actually charged, straight at Valdris. The Tekaran braced himself, all four arms ready to catch and tear apart this foolish human who dared to attack head-on. At the last second, Jack slid, dropped to his knees and slid across the stone floor like he was sliding into home base, right between Valdris's legs. Before the Tekaran could react, before he could turn around, Jack was behind him. And Jack had grabbed Valdris's tail. Now, I do not know if you know anything about Tekarans, but their tails are not just for balance. They are a major part of their nervous system. Grabbing a Tekaran's tail is like grabbing their spine. It causes immediate, excruciating pain, Valdris roared. The sound shook the entire arena. He spun, trying to dislodge Jack, all four arms reaching back. Jack held on, used the momentum of the spin to swing himself up onto Valdris's back. What followed was the most brutal 30 seconds of combat I have ever witnessed, and I have seen a lot. Jack was on Valdris's back, attacking pressure points, nerve clusters, anywhere he could reach. Valdris was thrashing, trying to grab him, to tear him off, to smash him against the arena floor. They careened around the arena, a whirlwind of violence and desperation. The crowd was on their feet, screaming, chanting. I was standing too, hands pressed against the viewing screen, unable to look away. Jack got his arm around Valdris's throat. Not to choke him, Tekarans could hold their breath for 10 minutes. But to control his head, to limit his vision, to make him vulnerable. Valdris backed up fast, trying to crush Jack against the arena wall. Jack let go at the last second, dropped to the ground, rolled clear. Valdris hit the wall hard enough to crack it. Stunned, and Jack was up in an instant. He struck at Valdris's knee, a precise kick that hyperextended the joint. The Tekaran's leg buckled. He went down on one knee, still dazed from the impact with the wall. Jack moved behind him, grabbed two of his arms, put his knee against Valdris's spine, and pulled back in a hold that I recognized from ancient Earth combat sports. It's a submission hold. "Yield?" Jack said. His voice was strained, breathing hard. This fight had actually pushed him to his limits. Valdris struggled, tried to break free. But the position was perfect. Any movement just gave Jack more leverage. The Tekaran was trapped. "I cannot," Valdris growled. "I have never yielded. I am a champion." "Then you will be a champion with dislocated shoulders," Jack said calmly. "Your choice. But I will break your arms if I have to." "Yield?" The arena went silent, waiting, watching. Valdris was breathing hard. I could see the calculation in his eyes. The realization that he could not escape. That this human, this tiny creature from a species nobody respected, had actually beaten him. "I yield," Valdris said quietly. Then, louder, "I yield. The human has won." Jack released him immediately, stepped back, offered his hand to help Valdris stand. The Tekaran looked at the hand for a long moment. Then he took it, let Jack help him to his feet despite the fact that he outweighed the human by several hundred pounds. "You fought with honor," Valdris said, bowing his head slightly. "You are a true warrior, Jack Corvanos." "As are you," Jack replied. They walked off the arena floor together, and the crowd absolutely erupted. The noise was deafening. Beings were throwing things into the arena, flowers and tokens and weapons as tribute. The betting computers had completely crashed from the volume of payouts being processed. I sat down heavily in my chair, my hands shaking. He did it. He actually did it. "He is in the finals," Yelich said, his voice barely a whisper. "A human is in the finals of the Grand Proving." The final match was scheduled for 3 days later. They wanted time to build the hype, to let the betting pools recover, to give both fighters a chance to prepare. Jack's opponent was someone named Kareth the Unbroken, a Xylothian war construct, which is a polite way of saying a being that was genetically engineered specifically for combat. 12 feet tall, 6 arms, skin like diamond. She had won the last 2 Grand Provings, defeating Draxus both times. She had never been injured in a match. Ever. The odds were heavily in her favor. 3-1. I did not care. I put everything I had on Jack. The day of the final, I could not eat. I could not focus. I showed up to the arena 6 hours early and just sat in my booth, staring at the empty arena floor, trying to imagine how this was going to play out. Yelich found me there. He did not say anything, just sat beside me, equally nervous. What if he loses? I asked quietly. Then he loses, Yelich said, but he will have made it further than any human ever has. He will have proven that his species deserves respect. That is worth something. It is worth everything, I said. The arena filled up. The largest crowd in the history of the proving grounds, being standing shoulder to shoulder, packed into every available space. The energy was incredible, overwhelming, almost frightening in its intensity. The announcer began the pre-match ceremony, recounting the tournament, the upsets, the victories, building the suspense. And now, the announcer's voice boomed. The moment you have all been waiting for. The final match of the grand proving. In the east corner, standing 12 feet tall, undefeated in 47 matches across 3 tournaments, the reigning champion, Kareth the Unbroken. The east gate opened. Kareth emerged, and I swear the ground shook. She was terrifying. All 6 arms held weapons. Plasma blades, energy whips, impact hammers. She wore minimal armor because she did not need it. Her skin could stop anything short of a direct artillery strike. The crowd chanted her name. Kareth, Kareth, Kareth. And in the west corner, the announcer continued. The tournament's greatest surprise. The underdog who has defeated every opponent placed before him. The human who has captured the imagination of the entire sector. Jack Corvanos. The west gate opened. Jack walked out, and the arena went absolutely silent. Because for the first time Jack was armed. He carried 2 simple metal rods, each about 2 feet long. They were not powered, not energy weapons, just solid metal. But the way he held them, the way he moved, made them look infinitely dangerous. He walked to the center of the arena and looked up at Kareth. The size difference was almost comical. She could have stepped on him. You have done well to reach this point, human, Kareth said. Her voice was deep, resonant, artificial in that way war constructs always sound. But this ends now. I will destroy you. Jack twirled the metal rods once, a casual flourish. You know, everyone keeps saying that. It has not worked out well for them so far. Kareth's eyes narrowed. You dare mock me? I am not mocking you, Jack said calmly. I am stating facts. Now, are we going to fight, or are we going to keep talking? Because I would really like to get this over with. I have dinner plans. The crowd loved it. Even I had to smile. The sheer audacity of this human. Begin, the announcer shouted. Kareth attacked with all 6 arms at once. A storm of blades and whips and hammers designed to overwhelm through sheer volume of attacks. Jack met her weapons with his metal rods. And then I understood why he had chosen them. The rods were not for attacking. They were for deflecting. Every weapon Kareth swung at him, Jack redirected with minimal effort. A tap here, a nudge there, using her own force against her. He was not trying to block her attacks. He was guiding them, controlling them, making sure they went exactly where he wanted, which was into each other. Kareth's plasma blade struck her own energy whip. The whip wrapped around the impact hammer. The weapons tangled, crossed, interfered with each other. She had too many weapons. They were getting in her own way. Jack had planned for this, had known exactly what would happen. While Kareth was trying to untangle her weapons, Jack moved. He struck at her joints, at the gaps in her diamond-hard skin, at the vulnerable points every war construct has because you cannot armor everything without losing mobility. Kareth roared, dropped 2 of her weapons, created space. She was learning, adapting. She used her remaining weapons more carefully, with more precision, but Jack was always one step ahead. Every attack, every combination, he had an answer. A deflection. A dodge. A counter that left Kareth just slightly more off balance than before. They fought across the entire arena floor, back and forth, the crowd screaming, the betting computers going wild. This was the greatest final match anyone had ever seen. Then Kareth made a mistake. She overextended with one of her lower arms, trying to catch Jack with an energy whip. He rolled under it, came up close, and struck her elbow with one of his metal rods. There was a crack that echoed through the arena, and Kareth's arm hung limp. Broken. She had felt pain. For the first time in her existence, Kareth the Unbroken had been injured. She looked at her arm in something like shock. Then she looked at Jack with pure rage. "I am going to tear you apart," she snarled. "You are welcome to try," Jack said. She attacked with renewed fury. Faster, harder, more desperate. She abandoned technique in favor of raw power. That was her second mistake. Jack had been waiting for this, for the moment when she stopped thinking and started reacting, when emotion overrode training. He became a blur of motion, striking, deflecting, moving, always moving. And he was not fighting her anymore. He was dancing around her, making her chase him, exhausting her, waiting for the perfect opening. And then he found it. Kareth swung with all 5 remaining arms, a desperation attack designed to crush Jack through sheer force. Jack dropped his metal rods, let them clatter to the ground. Then he jumped, using one of Kareth's own arms as a springboard, launching himself up to her eye level. In midair, he struck. Both hands, fingers extended, targeting her eyes with surgical precision. Kareth screamed, staggered back, blind. Jack landed, rolled, came up with one of her dropped plasma blades in his hand. Before Kareth could recover, before she could even process what had happened, Jack had the blade against her throat. "Yield," he said. Kareth stood there, blind, disarmed, defeated. The perfect war construct. The undefeated champion, brought down by a single human who weighed less than one of her arms. "I cannot believe this," she whispered. "Believe it," Jack said gently. "You fought well, but this is over. Yield." I yield," Kareth said. Her voice was barely audible over the stunned silence of the crowd. "I yield to you, Jack Corvanos." Jack deactivated the blade and stepped back. For a heartbeat, the arena was completely silent. Then it exploded. The noise was beyond anything I had ever heard. Screaming, cheering, shouting. Beings were jumping up and down. Weapons were being fired into the air in celebration. Complete and utter chaos. Jack stood in the center of it all, covered in sweat and blood, and he smiled. I sat in my booth, tears running down my face. Yellick was making sounds I had never heard him make, something between laughter and crying. "He won," I said. "A human won the grand proving." The prize ceremony was held an hour later, after the crowd had calmed down enough to make the presentation without causing a riot. Jack stood on the winner's platform while the tournament director, a dignified old Kalarian named Vorash, presented him with the championship belt and the credit chip containing 50 million credits. "Jack Corvanos," Vorash said, his voice amplified across the arena. "You have achieved something remarkable today. You have proven that skill and determination can overcome any advantage of size or strength. You have earned the respect of warriors from across the galaxy. And you have changed the way we all think about your species. On behalf of the grand proving, I salute you." The crowd erupted again. But Jack raised his hand, asking for silence. Slowly, gradually, the noise died down. "Thank you," Jack said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. "I did not enter this tournament for glory. I did not do it for the money. I did it to prove a point. Humans are new to the galactic community. We are small. We are not as strong as Corvans, not as fast as Sylph, not as durable as Tekarans or Xylothians. But we have something else. We have thousands of years of experience turning our weaknesses into strengths. We have adapted. We have learned. We have survived. And now, we are here to show that we deserve a place among you, not as inferiors, not as children, but as equals. The crowd was silent, listening. This tournament was not about me, Jack continued. It was about every human who has ever been underestimated, every being from any species who has been told they are too small, too weak, too different to succeed. I want you all to remember this. Size does not determine worth. Strength does not determine value. What matters is here. He tapped his chest. Heart. Determination. The willingness to keep fighting even when everyone says you cannot win. He held up the championship belt. This belongs to all of us. To everyone who has ever refused to give up. Thank you. The arena erupted one final time. But this time it was different. It was not just celebration. It was respect, acknowledgement, acceptance. I watched from my booth as Jack left the arena floor, surrounded by fighters he had defeated, all of them wanting to shake his hand, to congratulate him, to learn from him. Yellick turned to me. So, what now? Now? I said, checking my account balance. I was rich. Incredibly, stupidly rich. Now I retire. Buy a nice planet somewhere. Maybe write a book about this. What will you call it? I thought about that. About Jack walking into the registration hall 3 weeks ago. About the journey he had taken us all on. About the way he had entered unknown and left as a legend. I will call it the human factor, I said, because that is what it was. The thing nobody accounted for. The variable that changed everything. 3 months later, I heard that Jack had returned to Earth. He was running a training academy, teaching other humans his techniques. And he was accepting students from other species too, teaching the galaxy the art of human combat. Applications were apparently backed up for years. I also heard that 5 other humans had registered for the next grand proving, all of them students of Jack. The galaxy was changing, all because one human refused to accept that he was too small, too weak, too new to matter. And you know what? I could not wait to see what happened next.